Okay, so we've all heard about childhood obesity. It's a huge health topic. But we usually focus on things like diabetes and heart disease. There's another side to it, though, a visible toll that can literally shape a child's entire future. Today, we're going to dig into that hidden connection, the one between weight and posture.
First, let's just try to get our heads around the sheer scale of this. In the United States alone, we're talking about nearly 15 million children and adolescents affected by obesity. That number is just staggering, and it really sets the stage for the physical impacts we're about to break down.
But this really isn't just about the numbers you see on a scale. There's a whole physical story playing out inside these kids' bodies. It's a story that affects everything, how they run, how they play, even how they stand still.
And that's the thing. The incredible strain from all that excess weight literally reshapes a child's developing body. It has this profound impact on their skeletal structure and, you guessed it, their overall posture. So, let's dive into what that heavy toll actually looks like, because it's not just one single problem. It's more like a cascade of challenges that are all connected.
And make no mistake, this is not just an American issue. Not at all. If you look at the data from the World Health Organization for Europe, you see a really similar trend. Almost a third of young boys and over a quarter of young girls are classified as overweight. This is, without a doubt, a global health challenge. This slide really gives you a snapshot of just how wide-ranging the impact is. Obesity is what we call a multi-system condition, right? It's linked to everything from insulin resistance to asthma. But for today, we're going to zero in on the system that, holds everything else together, the musculoskeletal system.
Okay, so how does this actually happen? How does extra weight physically remold a young developing body? Well, it really just comes down to basic physics. The body has to adapt to carry that extra load, and that adaptation comes with consequences.
Before we get into the problems, let's establish a baseline. What does healthy posture even look like? It's all about alignment. Picture a perfectly straight line running from the ear, right down through the shoulder, the hip, the knee, and the ankle. That perfect alignment lets the body work efficiently and protects it from all kinds of strain and injury.
But under the stress of excess weight, that perfect line starts to break down. The body compensates, and that leads to a whole host of issues. You see things like flat feet as the arches collapse. The head and shoulders start to jut forward. A rounding of the upper back, which is known as kyphosis, starts to appear. It can also cause knock knees, and that really pronounced deep curve in the lower back.
And you know what? This is incredibly common. Research shows that a whopping 74% of kids with a high BMI have what are called paramorphisms. Now, the key word here is correctable. That's the good news. For a lot of these kids, these aren't permanent skeletal changes, if we can step in early enough. This quote from the research just puts it in black and white. The connection is strong, it's clear, the risk of developing these postural problems goes way up with excess weight.
Now, this is where things get even more complicated, because these posture issues, they aren't just a consequence of the weight. They actually become a cause of further problems, creating this nasty, vicious circle that can be really, really hard to escape.
And this lays out that cycle perfectly. So it starts with the extra weight, causing those postural shifts. Then, those shifts make movement feel awkward, inefficient, and messes with motor skills like balance and coordination. So what happens when it's just harder to move? Well, kids become less physically active. And of course, less activity makes it even harder to manage weight, which just reinforces the whole cycle. See what I mean? It's a tough loop.
And the data absolutely backs this up. Study after study shows that obesity is linked to things like impaired balance, which of course increases the risk of falls. It's tied to reduced muscle strength, which makes simple things like climbing or jumping that much harder. And on top of all that, it's linked to more pain in the back and legs, which is a huge reason why kids might stop wanting to be active in the first place.
So the big question is, how do we break this cycle? It's not as simple as just telling kids to go exercise more. Nope. It requires a really specific, targeted approach. We have to start thinking of exercise as medicine. And this is the key right here. Therapeutic exercise is so powerful because it works on two fronts at the same time. On the one hand, it has direct effects. It helps correct posture, strengthen those key muscles, and improve mobility. But it also has these amazing indirect effects. It helps with weight management and improves metabolic health, which gets right to the root cause of the whole problem.
Now, it's important to know this isn't some overnight fix. The research suggests that a program really needs to last for at least 8 weeks to see measurable improvements in posture, and 12 weeks is even better for really cementing those positive changes and building new, healthier habits that can last.
So what does this therapeutic exercise actually look like?
Well, it tends to focus on 4 main areas. First, reinforcing the core muscles, your back and abs, to support the spine. Second, improving balance through proprioceptive activities. Third, increasing joint mobility. And finally, making sure there's good flexibility through stretching.
All right, let's pull all of this together. What's the path forward? How do we start building a healthier future for our kids?
Here are the big things to remember. First, obesity's impact isn't just about weight, it's structural, and it creates that vicious circle of inactivity. Second, targeted exercise is powerful medicine, and it's our best tool for breaking that cycle. Third, getting in there early with evaluation is absolutely critical. And finally, no one can do this alone. It takes a team effort. Parents, teachers, and healthcare pros all working together.
Ultimately, all of this brings us to one final, much bigger question. If we look beyond the clinical interventions and the specific therapy programs, how do we just shift our world to make sure that for every single kid, moving their body isn't a chore, that it isn't a treatment, but that it's just a natural, joyful part of being alive? That, right, Bear, is the real challenge ahead of us.